Do you ever wonder what would happen if...
If you give a dad a podcast.
I'm what you call a nerdy fan. I nerd out at this stuff hardcore.
You'll hear me talk about anime on here. You'll hear me talk about Power Rangers. You'll hear me talk about wrestling on here.
Okay.
I had a axe handle with a Twisted Tea on it. It was right after that Twisted Tea video went viral. And man, they went out and grabbed it and smacked a dude in the head with it. It was so...
That's great. I'd like to think of this podcast as a nostalgia moment for me. It's a show where I can talk about whatever I want.
I'm a human animal chiropractor. There was a picture of me. It looked like I was on the side of a ramen box over in China. But
So I took my kids with me to Comic-Con.
I thought that was really cool.
Well, I don't know if my wife should listen to this podcast.
We'll cut that part out.
You hope. Be like, and then Robert said this.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast. Available now on all podcasting platforms.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I want to tell you about a new podcast out called Fouls Count Anywhere. It is a classic pro wrestling podcast that brings you the legends of wrestling with true wrestling fans Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. They bring on guests that are legends in this business, as well as wrestlers of today, promoters, referees, you name it. They have them on there, folks. And I encourage you to listen to them. If you're on YouTube, watch them. They drop every Saturday. They have their podcast. They drop it in the afternoon. So look forward to that podcast coming out. Falls Count Anywhere podcast with Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. Folks, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. And enjoy the podcast. The talk of wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today is a well-known pro wrestler from the late 1980s and into the 90s. He is a multi-time tag team and singles champion in many promotions he worked with, as well as the Men's Wrestling Award he was awarded from the Cauliflower Alley Club in 2021. He is also best known for his time in the NWA and the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to have on Mr. Ricky Santana. Ricky, thanks for coming on today.
It's a pleasure to be on your Bumps and Thumps there, Mr. Brian, and we'll get answering a few questions and give you a little bit of insight what life was like back on the road in those days.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you. We talked a little bit before the recording here. We teenager and into my early 20s. I believe you were in the NWA in Crockett and some areas like that, Mid-South. And
San Antonio, Portland.
Yeah, you were a high flyer, and I'm just so glad you were able to come on today. So, Ricky, let's talk a little bit. Growing up, you're from Puerto Rico.
No.
No,
People
you're
always
not.
get confused. No, sir. No, I was actually born in New York and lived in, moved to South Florida. Just everybody thinks, that's the case. That's not the case.
And I looked at multiple sources, and it says you were born in Puerto Rico, so they're wrong.
No,
I got the inside scoop.
Yep, the greatest city in the world, New York. It was so great they named it twice.
Yeah, so good. Well, let's talk a little bit about you growing up, your childhood, and then kind of getting into the wrestling business.
Well, growing up in the beginning, like I said, out of New York, and then my father decided to move to South Florida. But before then, I remember my dad taking me to the Garden to watch pro wrestling. I was a young kid, and I was in awe of, the Garden, the aura of Bruno, in his heyday.
Oh, yeah.
And, we moved to Florida, and I said, Well, damn, I got no wrestling now. But I was fortunate enough that there was a UHF station in Florida. Most people don't know what that is, but that was the cable of our time. You know, you had the
Yeah.
basic 4 channels. And on
Mhm.
Sundays, they had a 4 hour block of wrestling, believe it or not. It's now Univision in Miami, but back then, you would get the first hour from the Olympic out in LA. The second hour was out of the Oklahoma territory. The
Okay.
third hour was the Carolinas, which was all tag teams, and then what I fell in love with was Championship Wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley was the last hour. So it was one of those things that on Sunday you couldn't talk to me between 7 and 11 because I'd be glued to the TV watching wrestling.
That's great. I mean, I was kind of the same way. Ours was on Saturday and Sunday, so we had like a couple hours on Saturday morning, and then about 2 hours before church on Sunday
Right.
morning. So that's pretty interesting. So growing up, you moved to South Florida, graduated high school. Let's talk about you getting into the business. What prompted you to say, you know what, I'm going to get into this and do this?
Well, the big factor was obviously Championship Wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley. They had
Mhm.
the cream of the crop. I mean, you had the Briscoes, the Funks, Bob Roop, Hiro Matsuda, Mr. Saito, all these amateurs, right? And
Mhm.
everybody, you know, in my mindset, the way would hear Gordon talk, you know, Danny Hodge was there also, another great amateur. Um, and I said, well, I want to be a pro wrestler, but I guess I got to go through all this amateur stuff before I get there. So yeah, I've missed a lot of Thanksgiving dinners and a lot of Christmas dinners and tournaments, you know, in high school and moving on to cut weight because that's what I had to do. And I remember at the last Legends luncheon in Tampa, I was sitting next to Gerald Briscoe, who was very important in the development of my career moving forward. But I said,
Okay.
Jerry, you know, you got a little bit of heat with me, you know? He goes, heat with you? I said, yeah, you know, because Gordon put you and Jack over, you know, all these great amateurs, NCAA champions, Olympic medalists, and everything. And I said, well, damn, I got to be an amateur if I'm going to go pro. And here I am cutting all this weight, missing all this. And then I find out it's a work. And he looked at me and he said, what did you become? I said, I became a pro wrestler. And he goes, well, I guess it worked, didn't it? And I said, touche, my friend, touche.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about training. Who trained you and what was
Okay.
that like for you?
Great Malenko. That's where I went. I went to the Malenko
Okay.
school. A lot of great people come out of the Malenko school.
Mhm.
Tugboat, Paul Diamond, myself, Norman Smiley, Al Perez, Gangrel, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, obviously,
Mhm.
for me, the biggest factor that was so hard for me to break out of the habit was dragging my feet because as an amateur, you never cross your feet. For me, it was, you know, I had to get used to not dragging them and crossing them. And, you know, you see it on TV, you see the ring, and everybody's got this misconception that this ring is this big pillow. And I hate to tell you guys, but when you're taking those consistent bumps and hitting those ropes that are not really rope, they're, you know, cable with hard nose, as I used to call it, over it, you know, your lats start to hurt and your back starts to hurt, you know, but
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I
yeah,
did.
yeah. That is, the Malenko School. I've heard of it, and some guys. Obviously, you named some stars that have come out of there, including yourself. Did you go during the summertime? I've heard stories where people that were trained under Hero, they would turn off the air conditioning and all these horror stories. Was that kind of same old school mentality, or was it more of, we're going to train you, we're going to make it hard, but we're going to make it effective so you're trained and ready to go when you get out of there?
It was old school mentality. You had to be in shape.
Yeah.
You had to be able to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
Hero School was a lot based out of Japanese training. In my time that I was over in Japan with the young boys, they go through all those Hindu squats and all those sit ups and all those push ups. And that was part of their ritual. And Hero was big on conditioning and being able to take care of yourself in and out of the ring. The same thing. It was a different era. Everything was kayfabe, and you had to protect the business. So you had to take care of yourself and take care of it. And in a lot of territories, if you couldn't take care of yourself, or you got beat, or you made the office look bad, you were pretty much done. You had to move on.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, there was a lot of territories back in the day. From what I've understand, there was I've heard between 26 and 30 territories up until the the early 90s.
Yep. And they started to fall off by the waist.
Right. And I mean, I guess if you weren't doing well in one area, you could go to another one, as long as you didn't, like you said, make the business look bad or things like. So let's talk about your Ricky, if we could, your first promotion after you went through your training with the Malenko. Where did you go, and what was that like for you?
Well, it all began with the great Malenko was doing his shows at the Boys Club in Tampa, and I would go everywhere just to get my my experience down. But I ran into a gentleman at the gym. His name was Joe Mascaro, who happened to know George Scott, who happened to be booking when the big swoop in WWF started, when they were raiding the territories. So I approached him and got an opportunity. It was we were called the Miami Crew. It was myself, Joe Murdo, Corporal Kirshner, Rusty Brooks, and Jimmy Young. They would bring us up, we would do our thing, and that's where I first met Jerry Briscoe. And we were in Poughkeepsie, and you're taping 3 hours of TV, and there it is. And Jerry pulls me to the side, and he goes, "Come here, kid." And I walk over. I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "You got Valentine." I go, "Yeah, I got Greg, right." And he says, he's got that big forearm that he throws over you. I said, "Yeah, I'm well aware of it." And he goes, "Do me a favor." I said, "What's that, Jerry?" Because, I'm a young kid. I'm green, I don't know any better. He says to me, when he hits you with it, say something witty, a little bit sarcastic, but not disrespectful. I said, "Okay, no big deal." I'll go up there, I get in the ring, and Greg rears back and he hits me. And I just looked up at him and I go, "That's it?" And his eyes got as big as 2 fried eggs, and he proceeded to pummel my ass into the mat, right? And the match is over, and the enhancement gets out of the ring first and leaves a superstar in there. But in Poughkeepsie, there's 3 flights of stairs to the locker room, and I'm already ahead, but I hear the doors sling open, and I hear footsteps like running down the stairs. So I know Valentine's coming in behind. Now, mind you, at the end of the stairwell, there's the Funks, there's the Briscoe, and there's Steamboat. And to get there, Greg looks behind me and he says, "Oh, kid, I knew you weren't that stupid. Somebody put you up to it. But I just want to know, was it the Funks, was it the Briscoes, or was it Steamboat?" And I just said, "I don't know what you're talking about, Greg, but thank you." And I went about my business. And that's how my years of friendship with Gerald and obviously Terry and Dory and everybody and Rick Steamboat started. It was one of those rare moments, and then getting on Piper's Pit and just learning. And it was Jerry who sent me to San Antonio with Chavo Guerrero Sr. And I picked his brain like there was no tomorrow, because I wanted to learn about the business. My thought process was, learn as much as you can, because your body won't allow you to run forever. So why not use your mind, in the backstage sense, which wasn't called back then that, there was no producer agents. It was booking, booking 101.
Yeah. Wow. So you go to San Antonio. Now I saw you when you were in Crockett. You were in Mid-South for a while. When was your big break? I guess I saw you in the NWA and WCW. What was it before that? Maybe when was your kickoff point of, okay, I'm the main guy. I'm a main guy now.
Well, it progressed. Obviously, I went into San
Right.
Antonio. I did a mass gimmick called the Hoods. Um, and it was Tony Torres, who was a worker and a referee for Bill Watts. He had come over because Chavo had set it up that way. And then we were working with a young guy. You might have heard of him. His name was Shawn Michaels. He was 18 years old. Him and Paul Diamond, they were called the American Force. And we were doing the old Twin Devils gimmick where we would switch in and out all the time. And we got a lot of heat. I mean, we were there. We had a good feud, you know, and you could see the talent developing. When Chavo took the book, the territory was down. At that time, Dallas was the big thing in Texas. You know, world class, Fritz's deal. But we started to move it and make it work. Working with Bill Watts and the Mid South guys that came in, the Fantastics, Ted DiBiase, you know, all different one man gang. You know, we had all these people to do the joint show for the Battle of the Alamo, and that kind of really blew it up. Unfortunately, with the business, I guess when you step on toes, because I always describe it as the mafia, you can't step into somebody else's territory. And in my opinion, Gary Hart came down while Chavo was in Japan, and everything went sideways. So I had met Wahoo in San Antonio. He had been in it because he had worked that territory before. And he was booking in Florida. So he told me when I was done there, kid, you know, I got a place for you in Florida. So writing on the wall, I moved there, did a few things there that got a learning lesson. And I went out to the Northwest, working for Don Owens. I had this when I first met Fidel Sierra, who I've known for, wow, we've been on the road for 37 years together. And that was the deal. You know, I became the Northwest champion. I became the tag champions. I became the television champion. So I was starting to move forward. And then we went to the Charlotte territory. And that's when Dusty gave me that big break. I remember like it was yesterday. We're at TBS Studios and, you know, he calls me into his makeshift office. And he said, baby, in the famous words of the Colonel, I like what I see. I'm about to give you a push, baby, for a national level. And he did. He kept true to his word, you know. I mean, I got to work with Arn, Tully, Rotundo, Flair, you know, the Midnight Express, you know, in a tag situation, you know, the Rock and Roll Express, you know, when we were heels. It was just, the timing was there. At the time for myself. You know, I was, you know, up and coming, you know, Latin star, trying to make a name for myself. And I got to thank all those people that I watched as a kid that helped me in the journey. So, you know, for me, it's like, I can't explain it. You know, my dad used to take us to Miami Beach, all the kids in the summertime, and we go to everyone's regular town in the Florida territory. I got a chance to bring my dad to that building. I bought him a ringside ticket, and I happened to be on the cover of the program. But the funny part about it is I'm coming to the ring and I see him like he's signing stuff. So I had kind of convinced him that we were going to go eat this fresh seafood stuff. And after the show, I said, hey, Dad, we're going to go eat, but we're not eating seafood. We're having chicken wing and beer is what we're going to eat, like one of the boys, right? And I said, what were you doing? You know, I'm coming to the ring and I see you got your back. It looks like you were signing something. He said, well, son, I'm standing there and I know you're coming out because I see the matches on the program. And the guy behind me taps me and says, hey, mister, you want to sit down? You act like your kid's going to wrestle. He goes, he is. And he goes, who's your kid? He goes, he's on the cover of the program. That's your son? He goes, yeah, can I have your autograph? And he said, hey, who am I to deny a guy an autograph? And I busted out. I said, Dad, you're too much. But hey, he was my biggest fan, you know. That's how that was.
Hey, everyone. This is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. We are on here today because of you, viewers and watchers like you. In order to continue the podcast, we need to monetize our YouTube channel so we can get guests on that require financial compensation. That's where viewers like you come in. If you subscribe today, we can get that number up to 1,000. And as an incentive, the 1,000th subscriber will receive a free t-shirt just like this and receive a book from the legendary George Shire on his Minnesota Golden Age of Wrestling, from Vern Gagne to the Road Warriors, signed by George Shire himself. So please get on there, tell your friends to subscribe today. And when you hit that 1,000 mark, you're going to get a t-shirt like this. I'm going to reach out to you. You're going to be coming on the show as a guest and receive that book, The Minnesota's Golden Age of Wrestling, from Vern Gagne to the Road Warriors, signed by George Shire. So get on there today, subscribe, and please enjoy the podcast. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I love it. That's a good story. You know, Ricky, to me, from, you know, I remember you're one of the ones really that I remember that was really the come out start with the high flying techniques, the you know, all the moves you did off the ropes, and even, you know, coming off the ropes and, you know, drop kicks, even, you know, off the ropes from the top.
Yeah.
You're one of the that I can remember first ones to do that. I mean, consistently. You know, and coming from your background, you know, your Hispanic heritage. You know, there's guys that have done it, but I mean, you're the ones that really, to me, in the late 80s and in the 90s, where it was a standout in that. And then it caught on. You know, you're kind of like, I guess, the pioneer of it. Was that something you learned, or something you saw, or both? Or how was that for you? How did you pick up on that?
Well, you know, I tried to study every aspect because I wanted to be able to work every style. The lucha libre Mexican style, the blood and guts style of Puerto Rico, the Japanese strong style, and everything else. And I had seen a lot of the moves over time, and I figured, well, you know, I can do that. Really, nobody's really doing that unless, you know, you are lucha libre and you're Mexican. Me being Cuban was a completely different thing, which was kind of like the factor that, well, maybe if I'm doing it, it's a little different because they don't expect that from me. And that's where, you know, it came into play. The cross bodies off the top, the splashes, you know, I mean, come on, you see Snuka come off the cage, you know,
You're right.
You know, you do those kind of things, but yeah, the drop kick was big, the sunset flips out of the corner, you know, the topes outside, the pescaditos over the top, you know, it was something that was not common. So I did it to elevate myself. Sometimes it was beautiful, and sometimes tired to catch the top rope. And hey, good thing there wasn't social media back then, you know. I'd be on the blooper highlight reel, maybe.
No, I just remember you were one of the first ones that I can really remember that did it consistently, weekly, most matches. You know, you talk about Snuka. Yes, he came off the top rope off the cage at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
But you were the one that was on TV in Hispanic, because you said Lucha Libre. Lucha Libre, probably very few people heard of that unless they lived on the border in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, that area. But other than that, across America back then, the 80s and early 90s, nobody heard of that. And so I commend you, because it did bring you out as a star. I can remember you working those pros. So let me ask you this: promotion wise, you said you've been to Japan, Lucha Libre down in Mexico, NWA, pretty much all of them, Northwest. What was one of your, I don't want to say your favorite, but probably one of your favorite places that you really enjoyed working as a wrestler?
I enjoyed Japan immensely. Because it was a strong style, competitive style, but the Japanese fans, if you just gave them a great match, it didn't matter if you were winning or losing, or if you won all and lost all. They just wanted to see a good match, and they would commend you for that. They were true fans in that aspect. They wouldn't blew you out of the building after 3 losses or something like anywhere else. Now, as a heel and generating heat, in Mexico, we generated some heat because, you know, even though we spoke the same language, we were foreigners. So it really, and I took advantage of that, because in that time frame, they weren't really big on promos. but
Yeah.
we were used to it. So for us, it was natural, and it created a lot of heat, which was what you wanted. That's what put,
Yeah.
the asses
Yeah.
in the seats, and everybody was making money. So,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Working in Puerto Rico, different mentality.
Mhm.
The Northwest, Don Owens, I still believe one of the best payoff men in the territory era. He paid according to the house, and there's all
Okay.
kinds of Don Owens and Elton Owens stories that I'm saving, because I'll tell you that at the end of this
Okay.
interview, and we'll go from there. But
Yeah.
I learned a lot out there. Rip Oliver was booking. I learned from him. Then the
Yeah.
grappler Len Denton, I learned from him. Obviously, everywhere I went. When I went, this is the big key factor that most people don't know. When I went to the Charlotte territory and I was there, Dusty's assistant, which was Kevin Sullivan, he lived with me. So
Oh.
every night when we would come home from the road, every night, you know what I did? Here we are. Come on, Kev, educate me. This, and this.
Yeah.
2 or 3 bottles of wine in, I got a lot of information out of Kevin.
Yeah. Wow, I
No
didn't see
doubt.
that's a interesting. You roommates with Kevin Sullivan. I mean,
Yeah.
what a guy. He's another one I've had on here before, and it's just such a wealth of knowledge and so
Oh yeah,
intelligent
absolutely.
about the business that he don't get enough credit for what he did for as far as booking
Yeah.
and
He
coming up
taught
with
me
gimmicks.
he
Yeah.
taught me a lot about things and why we do things and when you do
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
And that's been a friendship for another one of 30
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
dealing with the devil, as they would say.
Dealing with the devil, the Prince of Darkness, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let me ask, did you ever work in the AWA?
No, that was
No?
one of very few places that I never worked. I never worked in the AWA. I never worked in Memphis. I
Okay.
did work just about everywhere else. Like you said, when I down in Mexico, I worked for all of the major companies: AAA,
Yeah.
CMLL, and the UWA, which was the first major company down there in Mexico with Mr. Minus, where all those guys started. And obviously in
Hmm.
Japan, I worked for All Japan. I worked for Wing. I worked for the IWA Japan. I worked for FMW. I went anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
I worked for Otto
Yeah.
Wantz in Germany.
Okay.
His last tag champs, me and Navy SEAL, God rest his soul. We were the last of his Mohicans there in his business, his office, and
Mhm.
we, when he shut down, we were still his tag champs. So yeah,
Wow.
I've been around. I went into South Africa too.
Yeah.
Done done India. I mean, I've been around.
You've been around.
Been
Been around
around.
pretty much around the world, haven't you? What about like I heard a lot of people like go to Australia, New Zealand, down
Uh,
there. No?
yeah, I didn't wrestle in Australia. I went as an agent for WCW, so I've been to
Okay.
Australia, and England.
Okay.
Obviously, I've been there with the offices.
Okay. So you talk about the offices a little bit. Companies after I know you're still wrestling some, but you also work for the office. So what promotions? I'm gonna assume WCW, since you said that. Was there any other? Did you ever work for WWF or
Yes,
anybody as an agent?
WWE. Yep,
Okay.
yeah,
Or WWE,
WWE is an
excuse me.
agent. Yeah, well, actually, when Vince came in and did the invasion in Pensacola up there, I
Hmm.
was there, and then obviously moved over to WWF until we got the F out and made it WWE.
Yeah.
I've booked in Puerto Rico. I've booked in for IWA and Wing in Japan. I've booked in assistant in the Northwest. Did my own type of angles with the office in Mexico for setting up for the hair matches. I had my input, and I learned from the best, when you sit around all those guys and you ask all those questions, and you step into the ring and you work with guys like Tully and Arn and the Midnight and Coronet, listening to him, and there that part of the business is the part that most people don't take advantage of, and I say this a lot on a lot of different podcasts and interviews that I've done. If a veteran took the time to come over and tell you something, it's because he saw something. But most of them just say, "Yeah, I know." Well, if you knew, they wouldn't have to tell you. I was, I get those veterans that tell me something, and the very next night, I put it into play because I knew that they'd already been to the dance. They've been at the dance. They're on top of the dance. I'm trying to get to the dance. Why not? I mean, if they took the time to watch your match and critique it, then there's something. Good, bad, or indifferent, there's something. It's a question of, do you make it better? Do you make yourself better? How bad do you want it? It's nothing's handed to you. It's like when you think Terry Funk told me that. He says, "Sonny, when you think you know everything about this business, it's time to get out." And I've been here a while. I said, "Yeah, Terry, I know. I used to watch you as a kid. You got me kicked out of the convention center for throwing a paper cup at you." Stop it, Sonny. Stop it, Sonny. Yeah, I love Terry to death. I mess with Terry a lot. I imitate him when he gets on the bus in Japan.
Yeah,
he's a trip, right?
He's he did it for a long time. I mean, he was doing it in his God knows how long. I know he's done it for about 40 to 50 years, and
oh yeah, easy. He would tell me all kinds of stuff. You only got so many bumps in your kid, don't waste them. I said, "You're moonsaulting, you're in your 50s. What are you talking about?" Right? Crazy,
Yeah.
You talk about crazy. Go out with Terry Funk and Dick Slater in Japan, and tell me how that turns out. Oh Lord.
I'm sure it was a very interesting time when you did that.
Yes, it was. A few other guys are interesting too. Dick Murdoch, God rest his soul. Stan. I went out with Stan, and it's for me. It was an honor because I had seen all these guys, and here's this kid. No family members in the business, didn't play pro football, didn't do any of that. I kind of feel like I'm a John Madden or a Vince Lombardi, didn't play in the NFL but could coach. Just one of those things that I wanted to learn it so bad and take everybody's advice and feedback on everything I did that I wanted to take advantage of it. I want to be a Phil Jackson, come off the bench and win championships with Michael.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I didn't realize you were an agent or a booker, as well as a wrestler. So, I mean, that tells me you have a lot of. You're not just one dimensional, I guess is the word or term I'm using. Like Kevin Sullivan and Dusty and a few others, but you got to have the mindset to do that stuff, and it's hard to come up with new ideas. It's hard to be creative.
Absolutely.
And not use something that was just used maybe a couple months ago or whatever, that's fresh in your mind. And I'm sure that was what was that like, being a booker's agent or promoter?
It's this way. You hit the nail on the head when it's easy, and I've used this before. It's easy to come up with ideas and stuff for yourself. But when you have to do everybody else, that's when the mind has to create, and you got to go and for me, because I watched so much when I was a kid, and I knew what would make me mad and what would keep me hanging and what would make me happy. And then I go to Japan, and they got these long ass finishes, and that's my style. I keep you going, the ooh, the ah, the ooh, the ah, the ooh. Oh, didn't expect that. And that's how, I view it. I don't watch a program or a pay-per-view or anybody's I watch it from the like a director's eye, right? My kids don't like to watch any pay-per-views with me or anything else, and neither does the missus, because I'll be calling the shit before it happens, and she'll say, "Can I just watch it? Can I just watch the pay-per-view? Please, just let me watch it." I said, "All right, shit, let me go out over here, get another beer because everybody's getting mad at me."
That's because those creative wheels are turning, right?
Yeah, they're churning, and you know, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I
It's
can
like an
imagine.
obsession.
Yeah, I understand. I'd like to hear, if I could, Ricky,
Yep.
a story, just a story that maybe a time on the road when you're with somebody, and just kind of either a funny story or something that may have happened that maybe you haven't told before, or that's pretty funny that you want to tell.
I think it's pretty funny now. It wasn't funny when it happened, but we were out in the Northwest, right? And we would always do joint shows, Don Owens and Vern Gagne, right? The AWA guys would come in and everything. And Kurt was in, and Medusa was in, and Doug Summers and Playboy and Nick and everybody. And we're going around. Now we're up in Washington, right? And it's snowing and it's out there. And I don't know if you remember the Reeboks that had the pumps where you used to pump them in the middle, right? So I got a brand new pair, right? I got a brand new pair, and I'm out there. And I go, and here I go. I get done with my match and get all my stuff out. I'm going to go to the shower. Now, mind you, my partner of many years, Fidel, is there. Coco Samoa is there. Kurt Hennig is there. I go take a shower. I come back, and you know, I've already got my jeans and all my stuff laid out on the bench because, you know, in the locker room. And I go to the locker and I go to look for my shoes. They're not there. Mind you, outside there's about 2 foot of snow. So what do I got? I got my shower shoes, my flip-flops, right? And I'm riding with Scott Doring, a Minnesota boy who brought his car over from Minnesota. And granted, the whole bottom of the car is rusted out from the salt and the snow in Minneapolis. So now I got to get in the car. And I wrap my ring jacket and my towels around my feet, so because you could see the road. This floorboard was rusted out. And I don't want them to get frostbite, you know, because now we got to go from one side of Washington to the other. We're going from the Seattle area to Spokane.
Okay.
And till this day, I kid Fidel, I said, "Man, when are you going to mail me back my Reeboks? Because I know you and Kurt got them." And I said, "Brother, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. It's just to kind of, you know, we have to do an investigation, a la Mr. Fuji Kurt Hennig, you know, God rest their souls." I said, yeah, okay. I said, just remember, you know, when I go to the other side, just put them in the coffin with me, so at least I know they're going with me." And he just starts laughing. But I never got the shoes. And this is like
never got them back. Wow.
Never got them back, like almost 40 years now. So I'm saying, what the hell, right? But you know, those are the things that we did on the road. You know, we pitch powder in the referee's shirt and watch them, and you know, do things like that. Just, you know, I don't think you could do it nowadays because, you know, it's too different. You know, it's a different
more
era.
Sensitivity, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
More sensitivity. The boys are not the boys of days of old, you know, where you do crazy things like that.
Yeah, the ribbon is probably less now than it used to be. Yeah,
oh,
I'm sure.
by far.
And I can tell you, I've heard stories about Kurt Hennig, and so that does not surprise me about the shoes with him and your partner.
Yeah,
Fidel. Yeah, that does not even surprise me when you say Kurt Hennig. I was like, oh, that sounds like something he would do.
Yeah. Good people, though, Kurt.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. All right. So, if we could, sir, I want to talk to you about what you're doing now. What's some projects you're working on? Some things you want to talk about? Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you, Ricky.
I'm down in Florida, and it's like a hotbed of companies here in Florida. Working with, obviously, I've been for, wow, must have been 9, 10 years with Alpha the Wild Simone's promotion, WXW, help him out and deal with that. There's another company out of the Ocala area, FWE, that I'm helping them out and grow. Obviously, down south, there's CCW. I've helped them out before. So I kind of keep, moving along in the sense of trying to help talent grow. I'm writing my book. I'm hoping to have it out.
Yes.
I'm hoping to have it out here in about 3 or 4 more months. I got things to go right now. In the stage of it, in the Charlotte territory. So I still got a ways to go to write that out, to be able to do that. There's another thing that we're starting to put along. It's myself, Fidel, and Len Denton. We're going on the road telling stories. Kind of like a comedy type of thing, but making it a little different, because we got a lot of stories, a lot of stories to tell.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
That you can do on there. And there's a gentleman that we both know, that he's been on your show before, Mr. Attila Khan.
Yes.
Okay. Right. I want to show you some. Hopefully you'll be able to see it, right? Because this is a hidden talent, and this is, from one of the boys, right? And this is the picture that I sent him, of me, right?
Yeah.
Right. So he sent it to me, right? And he painted it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's a good artist. He's a very good painter.
Exactly. And I said, hey, if you got a favorite wrestler that you want done, go to Facebook, check him out.
Yeah.
Get you a good deal. I mean, come on, man. When I
is
saw
very
that,
good.
I saw him do the one on Austin, and I said, bro, you need to do mine. I'll send you the money.
Yeah.
That's
a hidden talent of his. He is very, very, I've seen him in action up here. I'm in the Springfield, Missouri area.
Yes.
And that guy is so incredible. He's so incredible when he's Attila Khan. I'll tell you a quick story. I don't mean to overshadow you here.
No, not at all.
My grandson, I have my oldest grandson.
Okay.
He's 11. We went to a show here in Springfield back last summer in June, and Attila was here, and he had those contacts in with those bright blue eyes, and he comes out all and my grandson doesn't usually get shaken or bent out of shape too bad. That kid was scared, and he grabbed me and held me like he was in a tornado.
Yeah.
He said, Pop, that guy scares me. I said, buddy, he is not going to do anything to you. I promise you. I will protect. Don't worry. He's not going to do nothing. I'll protect you, buddy. He goes, I don't know if you can. And I go, excuse me? But and then when I found out he was a painter, just incredible. And I'm glad you brought that up. He's a good guy. And I'm going to see him again in May.
Guy.
Yeah, I'm going to see him again.
Yeah, we're trying to get on that route ourselves. So we're
good.
Working with,
all right.
With Mr. Wilder. Yeah. Hopefully it'll all work out. Myself and Fidel will be hopefully out there in that area. It's he's a great guy. I see him all the time at the CAC. I missed last year's CAC.
I was gonna say I didn't miss you. I was there last year, the last one. I didn't see you.
Yeah,
my first
I
one.
missed that one.
That's all right.
And it happens sometimes, work and things that go on, and the COVID and all kinds of other junk. But that's beside the point. And I enjoy it because I get to see the boys.
Yeah.
And you never know, right? It's not like we're spring chickens anymore. So we always have to, go there. I tell that to my brother, Ming Haku. I said, brother, we thought we'd never get old, but we got old. It's one of those inevitables, and you try to make the best of it. But, the CAC is a great organization. They look out for the boys. I think anybody who ever steps into a ring should go out there and they should
Mm-hmm.
become part of it. Maybe you cannot be at this time, because I know times are tough for everybody, be a
Mm-hmm.
lifetime, but the monthly membership isn't really no big deal. You pay more for Netflix and Showtime. Come on.
Yeah, very
You can
true.
do that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're helping a great cause. If you want to be one of the boys, be one of the boys. Brian Blair does a great job, and everybody
He
that's
does.
involved with
Yeah.
the CAC,
Yeah.
unbelievable. And it's an event, and you enjoy yourself, and
Yeah.
you get to see everybody. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing. So I'm
Yeah.
big on that.
And my wife and I went out there last fall. I'll tell you what, those guys, every one of them out there that were there, Lawler,
Yeah.
Jimmy Hart, Bob
JBL,
Orton,
Yeah.
JBL, all
Yeah.
so down to earth. You could see him downstairs at the bar, the casino,
Bar.
or whatever, at the hotel, and you can
Yep.
go up and say hi to them. They'll talk to you for 10 minutes. They don't, they're not starstruck guys. I mean, JBL is pretty
Yeah.
well known guy. So is Jerry Lawler now.
Yeah.
But they don't brush you
Yeah.
off. They'll talk to you. It was great because, it was my first one. And what's even better is that the fact, if you want something signed or whatever, they're not, when they took your money, they only charged you like $20, I think. And all their money, they said, is going back to the CAC that they were collecting there, which was great. I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely, because I got some autographs from Lawler and those guys and JBL, but a great organization. Yeah. So folks, get out there if you can, even as a fan. I mean, I'm just a fan and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's
a great time. It's 3 great days.
Yeah.
You really enjoyed. Did you enjoy the bologna blowout?
Yeah, I did. I had it was the whole thing from top to bottom was great. All the events they had, the talks, you go around and see people, and the dinner where they honor everybody.
Did you ever wonder what could have been with the AWA had things gone differently? Had their fortunes gone differently? Had certain wrestlers not left and perhaps more money would have been at the disposal of the Gagnes? Well, wonder no further. You can go to Brad Drake's YouTube channel and experience the 1987 Supermod for yourself, as Brad Drake starts off in May 1987, along with Greg Gagne, Baron Von Raschke, Vern Gagne himself, Nick Bockwinkel, Larry Zbyszko, Kurt Hennig, and a slew of others as he plays and saves the AWA.
You were awarded the men's award in 2020 or 2 years ago. 3 years ago now, excuse me.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Let's talk about that for a second before we get out of here. What was that like for you? I mean, inside, emotionally. I mean, what was that like? Talk to us about that.
For me, the award meant that my peers, my fellow workers, acknowledged me for my attributes and contributions to this business. Mm-hmm. It wasn't anything other than the fact that for me, it was a great honor. On that particular show, we had Rey Mysterio, we had Medusa, we had some talent, and to be given that honor, is something that, I cherish. I mean, for me, and then I had Fidel, do the one to introduce me, because I did his, when he was inducted a few years earlier to that. And, it's just the feeling is like, it's like, for me, it was, okay, it's Christmas time and I've been wanting this bike, I seen the bike, I want the bike. And then you're looking everywhere and there's nothing, and then all of a sudden they say, oh yeah, there's one more. And they open the door and there's the bike, and you go, I got what I wanted. And that's how I felt.
That's
I
awesome.
felt that I had achieved something that was an honor for me. Yes, absolutely.
Ricky, I'm going to be honest. I think you're really, to me, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the show, I think you're really underappreciated for the way you guys paved the way for the business in your era, the 80s, the 90s, that some of you included, I think, have been kind of lost in that shuffle. You know, we think I got him in the back here, Hogan, some other guys, but guys like yourself, the Grabbler, those guys are very underappreciated, and you know, that's why I like to get you guys on here to tell your story, so people that watch this or listen to this really say, okay, you know what, these guys really did pave the way for the guys of today, the Cenas, the Cody Rhodeses, the all those guys, you know, that you know, wouldn't have what they have if it wasn't for guys like yourself, you know, and I want to tell you that, I mean, you know, being honored, given the men's award, that's quite an honor. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's recognition from
no doubt
peers.
about it. Yep, absolutely.
You know, and
yes.
it is, and I just want to tell you, from me, and I'm sure people that are watching this and listening to this, that I really appreciated your work in the ring, from what you've told us outside of the ring as well, as an agent, as a booker, you discovered talent, and you know, thank you for what you've done, because you know, you've paved the way for guys that are making a lot more money than you probably ever have or had in your lifetime, because of guys like you. So, you know,
and it's like I've said it numerous times before. I knew I was jumping into the deep end of the pool. I have no regrets in what I did. You know, I just contributed back to the business, because that's the way it was. You know, you say, helping people out. Well, you know, I trained Lita. I found Naomi. She was an Orlando Magic cheerleader. I was in the process to bring Alberto Del Rio in, both Sin Caras. I talked all that, you know, all those things. Why? Because I want to get back to the business.
Yeah.
You know, some people are bitter. Some people, you know, feel that they were owed something. Business doesn't owe you anything. You know, I mean, that's what I looked at. Like I said, the deep end of the cesspool. I jumped in head first. You know, I knew what it was. I knew what it was. When I got on that plane to go to San Antonio, this is something I had, after paying for my ticket, because they were going to reimburse me the office, I had $20 to my name.
Wow.
And I got to San Antonio, and there was nobody there to pick me up.
Oh
nobody.
My gosh.
They had forgotten about me. They thought I was coming in on a Monday, and I was in on a Sunday. So I went to this I'll tell you how long ago it was. I went to the little counter where you have all the phones to the hotels that had the shuttle services. And I saw the Travelodge, free airport shuttle, $16.95, free continental breakfast. I said, well, I learned to always have a round trip ticket in case something doesn't work out. I said, if nobody comes to get me on that, I just get back on a plane and go back home. But it didn't turn out that way, and you know, it worked out pretty good. So I'm glad.
You know, and you have such a great positive attitude, and that's great, because you are right. Some people are bitter, but you got in at a time when it wasn't what it is now, and that's okay. I mean, every sporting major pro wrestling or pro professional sports venue wasn't always like it is today. The NFL wasn't like it is. Baseball, basketball, none of it. There has to be pioneers and trailblazers that pave that way, and you're one of them, obviously, in the minds of many.
Left
from the territory era, right? But I mean, and you give back, and you've trained people or discovered people. So I want to again thank you for all you've done for the business, and I think it goes. I appreciate it. I know most people do that will listen and watch this. They will appreciate your contributions once they hear it. So yes, thank you so much.
I appreciate the time to allow me to come out here and tell a little bit of the stories, you know, that are on the road, and that camaraderie that was built with the boys, because you traveled 300. Well, I'll give you example. Odessa, 385 miles one way, wrestle and drive back. The next day to go to Corpus, another 140 one way. I mean, you were You were
You
constant.
were on the go.
And then then you start to progress and you move up. And when I was in that Charlotte territory, there was 3 towns being run a night. There was the A, which was all fly. There was B, which was a combination of flying and driving. And then there was a Cville, as I called it, the C route, because you got all the villes. You got Asheville, you got Martinsville, you got Charlottesville, you had Greenville, and you drove. And you drove. And that's what you did. So you paid your dues, and, everybody worked together because nothing was guaranteed. Everything was how many asses can you put in the seats, and you get paid a percentage of where you are on the card, and that's how you made your money.
Yeah.
So, hey, a different era, like anything. I say that. What would Roberto Clemente be making in today's market if he was playing baseball today, right? Come on.
He'd be making Bryce Harper money, that $500 million
Exactly.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And having better stats.
Yeah.
But
all right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ricky Santana, thank you so much, sir, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
I thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best in your show, and that everybody watches that Bumps and Thumps. And, if you got that, like I said, that wrestler that you're a favorite of, you want to get a top-notch portrait, look up Attila Khan on Facebook, and he'll hook you up. He's unbelievable. He's got a God-given talent for sure.
Yes, he does. Yes. Folks, I'll have information on Ricky Santana, his social media outlets, those promotions he mentioned earlier, I will have down there. If you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will talk to you soon.